War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Well, it's been 4 weeks since the earthquake in Haiti, and the country's authorities are continuing to revise their estimates of the number of people who've died. The latest official death toll is at 230,000. On Tuesday, Haitian Prime Minister Jean-Max Berive said it would take another 10 years to rebuild his shattered country and admitted that officials did not have a clear plan for how to relocate the 1 million Haitians made homeless by the earthquake. Meanwhile, at an emergency meeting of the Union of South American Nations in Ecuador, leaders pledged $300 million in aid to Haiti. Well, for more on this story, we will soon be joined by actor, activist, and Trans-Africa Forum Chair Danny Glover. He's recently returned from South Africa, where he met with the ousted former Haitian President Jean-Bertrand Aristide. But first, we're going to the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince, where we're joined by journalist Reed Lindsay. He's the Washington, D.C. bureau chief of Telesur, the Latin American satellite TV network. He's been in Haiti since January 13th, a day after the earthquake struck. Reed was formerly the Haiti correspondent for Telesur from 2004 to 2009. There's a very big delay in the satellite from New York to Port-au-Prince. But Reed, if you can just tell us, on this day, a month later, that the estimates have gone up again of the number dead, on par with the Asian tsunami. We're talking more than 230 dead. Tell us what you're finding around Haiti.
Well, Amy, I actually just returned from a trip to the countryside. And the time I've been here, I hadn't had an opportunity to go yet. I've been in Port-au-Prince. And of that figure that you mentioned, 1 million people homeless, it might be far greater than that, because everywhere I went, in every community, a small village, I found families that had taken in family members from Port-au-Prince who had lost their homes and had moved there. We went to one commune that is extremely poor called Anse Rouge, about 5 or 6 hours north of Port-au-Prince, and an area where they harvest salt for a living. It's extremely poor. The people, they have water once a week. There's almost no agricultural production, very little food. And in one house, for example, I found a family that before that had 9 members and now had 25, 16 people had come from the capital to live with them. One of them, the leader of the household, she was 30 years old. Her entire life she had lived in Port-au-Prince, and now she's been a month in the countryside. Again, very little water. They have to ration their water. And these are displaced people too, but they're not the displaced people that you see in the camps here in Port-au-Prince that are more visible. She has no plans of returning to Port-au-Prince with her family. She is, in the near future, going to stay there because she has nowhere to come back to. Her house that her father had constructed in Port-au-Prince was destroyed. And everywhere I went in the countryside, I saw this story repeated in every community. The last figure that I heard was that close to 500,000 people who had fled to the countryside, but it could be much more. In fact, they were still counting people. There were community leaders counting people in community by community who had gone to the countryside. And the problem is that over the last 20 or 30 years, Haiti has been devastated by neoliberal economic policies that have basically forced peasants to migrate to the city and to try to look for work and to send their kids to school here, because there's been absolutely no investment in the countryside. And now they're going back to the countryside. There's this reverse migration, but there's nothing there. There's no support. There's no schools. And the schools that do exist, they have to pay. They don't have money to send their kids there. There's very little agricultural production, and because they have no support, and of course they can't compete with imported food coming mainly from the United States. This country is completely dependent on imported rice. And 20, 30 years ago, Haitians only ate rice on Sundays, and it was rice that was grown in Haiti. In fact, we went to the rice growing region as well, in the Artibonite, and spoke with rice farmers, and they said they told us that they wish they could produce the food to feed the poor, the hungry in Port-au-Prince, but they can't because again they've been abandoned for all of these years, and they themselves have taken in these people from Port-au-Prince. They're very concerned with the high price of fertilizer, and again we've heard peasants tell us that what they thought was most important with aid was a long-term investment to support small-scale producers, to support national production, agricultural production, and not just food aid, not just handouts.
We're talking to Reed Lindsay in Washington, D.C., the bureau chief of Telesur. Reed, we're speaking to him in Port-au-Prince in Haiti. There's a long delay between my question being conveyed to him and him answering. But, Reed, I wanted to ask you about Titayen. For people who have spent time in Haiti, certainly for Haitians, they know well this area, the significance of it during the coup times with thousands of bodies being buried in this, what is seen as a massacre site, a killing field. Talk about Titayen today.
Well, in fact, driving back from the countryside yesterday afternoon, we passed by Titayen, and we saw a big crowd of people gathered. And we were curious to find out what they were doing. So right in Titayen, in this area where bodies have always been dumped, and where bodies have continued to be dumped since the earthquake. And we drove down this dirt road toward where these people were gathered, and right past what couldn't even be described as bodies, just body parts, and just thrown in the middle of the road. And the stench was unbelievable. And downwind from this was a food distribution organized by the government. Most food distributions you see in Port-au-Prince are organized by the international community. This one was, there were no UN present. It was organized by the government. There were Haitian police, and they were giving out food that was donated by Mexico. And lines of hundreds of people with no breathing in this unbelievable smell of bodies nearby, but so desperate for food that they had no other option to wait there. And of course, as usual, in fact, it seems like almost every food distribution I've seen, the food ran out, and the truck closed its doors and left empty, and hundreds of people were there left empty-handed. After all these people left, we hung around a little and took some images there, and we saw a family actually building a shelter there. A man and his wife and his son, and they were constructing a shelter with sticks, and in almost the same place, downwind from these bodies, where really it's difficult to even breathe. And the mother was covering her face with a towel as her husband and son constructed the shelter. And I asked them why,